Hi Aries, welcome back for your Twin Flame Toolbox update. I am YILDIZ from Twin Flame Alchemist to Union, as well as I do have another channel, the link is above. It's YILDIZ readings, and the other astrology charts will be on that channel. This one's more to hone in on the areas of what you're going to need to look at really, and how it's directly affecting you. Now, very important to look at your North Node. In the Twin Flame journey, North Node placement, moving towards growing into that is very important. So those of you who don't know what the North Node is, you can locate it using your rising sign. And on the wheel, if you look directly across, you will see the correlating sign, and that is your shadow aspect. That's what you came into this lifetime with, which is past life karma, and your disposition and your belief systems and what you were needing to move towards. So my rising sign's Cancer, so my shadow aspect in my younger years would have been Capricorn, and really having to move into it even though my birth sign is Libra. So it's an example, but if you need help with it, you can book a reading and I can give you a hand. Now, I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but it'll probably become simpler and you'll understand a lot more. I will do videos on North Node when I do have time. Otherwise, if you know your twins chart, you can cross-reference it. You can see what's coming up for them, as well as the videos will be available. 2018, I was seeing at the end of the month, we were really feeling disconnected, like not really feeling the energy of twin. Depending on masculine or feminine, regardless, I really feel the masculine energies, as per se, were meditating a lot, and the feminines were really reassessing themselves to a point where we were wondering where we were at and what we were going to be doing from here on in, and how we felt about the big picture. But really, they're doing the same thing, and that's why we're very much in silent mode. Also, knowing the nodes is going to help you understand what's going on. Now, at the moment, we have the nodes in Cancer and Capricorn, which will directly affect all of us individually. But again, I'll do that probably on YILDIZ readings, and or add that into the element of how it will be affecting all of us collectively. Working on your yin and yang, which is the sun and the moon frequency during transitions, is important in the twin flame journey, as well as with Saturn, because it's going to show you what you do need to change, what you know to be true, what the truth of the matter is, and what you need to move towards. That's also your North Node. Some of the frequencies of the planets will be you'll be working with them in different ways. You can be in the egoic state, which is the pain body, the 4D. The 3D nature of what's going on will be something that will be addressed, but grounding it in and anchoring it in is more the 3D. Verbose frequencies and the direct dynamic being uncertain can be 4D, which at times can be moon frequency. And then we've got the ascension. So what will be happening this month is we have a partial solar eclipse, and that's moving from the 1st of January through to the 6th. We're going to have the partial eclipse. It's in the area of Capricorn. It's in the house of Capricorn, but it's covering your 4th and your 10th house. Now, you need to get your root chakra and your third eye chakra cleared, and you will be using those in order to assess a dynamic. Whatever you deal with at the beginning pocket of the first week of the year is going to be an energy that you're going to be working on for 6 months. So if you need to retweak it, don't get triggered. Falling in your 4th house, it can be connected to your possessions, your resources, any sense of value. It can be land and home-related dynamics that you're trying to deal with. So it might be something in the bigger midst of the picture that you're wanting to work towards, or you're trying to process and understand the aspects of it, but it feels more at a 3D level for you, something you're going to be working towards creating value in your life at a financial level. It's also in your 10th house of your public image, your contributions, and it can be long distance travel as well. So when it comes down to it, looking at those areas, if your work is involved in that area, connected to land or connected to you being in the public or some shape or form, you're going to want to look at it but not get triggered by it, and it might need retweaking somehow. So whatever it is, especially connected to your possessions, might even be your disconnect from that and not wanting it and understanding why that's going on, as well as anything you can bring to the table. You're going to be working on those areas from January for the next 6 months. But in the eclipse, You could be feeling dissension symptoms to ascension symptoms, like aha, epiphany moments as well. Increased appetite, fatigue, nausea, ringing in the ears, perhaps even agitation. But it's not going to be necessarily a bad thing. It's more you're going to have to keep grounded and use your intuition in relation to it. 21st of January, we have Moon in Leo, and it's going to be a total eclipse. That's when anything that really needs to fall down or energetically be released is going to be released. Now, this comes into your 4th and your 5th house, which is the absolute psychological foundation of a situation, any domestic related situations, be it energy that you've kind of lagged over from 2019, releasing that frequency. Or really looking at the 3D notion of situations when it comes to co-parenting and how the dynamic needs to be balanced, either tuning into your twin or directly you tuning into your truth of situations of what's going on with you or a karmic energy. When it does come to the 5th house, it's connected to your children, your creativity, which can be the way you express yourself, you being, individually you, and your romance sector. So again, whatever needs to go in a sense of an energy frequency, I'm saying, you're going to need to let go of, or you're just going to be recreating that frequency. We really want to be moving into the air, leaving the old belief systems behind and moving forward with a fresh perspective, and being open to it. So if you do have a twin in a karmic connection, and you're cross-watching, it can directly mean that they're tying up those loose ends and they're releasing that factor. But they're really looking at what's correct for them and what they're needing to address, and what is coming to an end cycle energetically. When it comes to the sun frequency, it's going to be in Aquarius. And again, this is to do with our masculine aspects. And that's, we have with the moon and the sun, the feminine energy in the moon, but there's the dark and the light. So one could say when we're looking at the moon energy, are we trusting in our intuition? And then at the lower realms, it can be we have no clarity. Well, internally, we can find clarity. So it's trusting in the 5-day, which is the overall energy of it and the bigger picture of it. With the sun frequency, we can say we're overcompensating, which is we're super confident. And then other times we can say in the darker realms, we can come across as quite egotistical, angry, aggressive, pushy, really wanting that frequency to move forward. Now, the things you're going to be assessing at a lower or a high frequency through the sun is going to be your 1st, 5th, and 11th house. Now, that's to do with, in the 1st house, your image, the way you see yourself, your abilities to bounce back and do things that you can actually do. And interestingly enough, it's coming through the same time as the total eclipse. So it could be old belief systems that you're feeling you're unable to achieve certain tasks, and suddenly you're realizing you actually have the capacity to. And with the 5th house, it's connected to children and romance and your creativity, the way you can be yourself. Again, the 20th, whatever old belief systems you're having, I do feel they're going to come to an end and they're going to transfer and change. 11th house is to do with your tribe. So any people you're directly dealing with, your associates, your social views and your dreams, they may change around that time. So it could be that you're really looking at those things and actually understanding why some of those things weren't achieved, and that in order for you to create those things, what do you need to let go of and what do you need to move towards in order to make those things happen. But again, just especially around the total eclipse, I'll be very, very cautious as to believing that you have no power in situations, even if there are tower moments around that time, which is quite common. Don't get into fear-based frequency and don't jump the gun. Allow all the dust to settle, then make an assessment, but don't make any brash decisions around that time. Mercury in your house of communication is going to be in Capricorn, and that's really with your 3rd eye and your root chakra. So again, as I said, it's really important this month to keep chakras grounded. Drink the fluid, try and get into light body experience, because in order for us to cope with this month energetically, we're going to need to keep grounded. It falls in your communication sector and your romance and children sector. So the way in which you're communicating with these people is going to be important. There can be communication in relation to romance coming through for you. But be cautious in the way you are communicating with your twin, okay? So if the communication does come in, that can be around the time when suddenly you thought you were walking down a particular path and then bang, they come in, and it can change it and do a complete 360. And again, that can be something that you end up working on with them for pockets of you for the next 6 months to get it grounded and balanced, especially with the solar eclipse governing, you know, land resources, perhaps even shared resources, the way you see yourself, what you can bring to the table, and maybe even the bigger picture of the distance it's going to take in order to bring that all together. Mercury in Aquarius on the 24th, near the total eclipse, connected to your communication, again, root chakra and throat chakra. So again, intuitively with the first one in Mercury, you're going to have to use your intuition. In the next one, it can be directly connected to communication. Now, around this time, again, I'm suggesting you be cautious in the way you communicate. Try and keep grounded and come from a place of truth, not ego, because that can actually help balance and gain the clarity that you're needing. It is in your 3rd, 5th, and 11th house, which your 3rd house is connected to communication in Mercury. The 5th house is also connected to children, the way in which you express your creativity and romance. And then in the 11th house, it's to do with your friendships, your associates, so it can be work colleagues, etc., and how you value yourself. So again, be cautious in the manner in which you communicate around this time, but it is boding well for communication coming in. Now, Saturn is the placement where we see the truth of situations. So it's where in the high aspects, Saturn will show us. If we don't directly know, we'll be shown. When we do have the aha and we don't do something about it, we have three chances. So it's like you have the epiphany, or Saturn shows you, you don't do anything about it, then universe forces your hand. So even if you want to check out of the twin flame journey, and I mentioned this in the Sagittarius video, I'm trying to keep these really short because I've got 24 to do, 25. Coming from a place of ego, believing that you can leave a twin flame journey, if you're a real twin, there's no checking out of the twin flame journey. Time frames can kind of delay. Usually it's because you've got blocks and you're not working through your North Node. Also, the push and pull is directly connected to you looking at it 2-3D, that it isn't a spiritual connection. When it is a spiritual connection, you can't lose a spiritual connection. So the pain body ego experience does take some time for you to physically have your upgrade. So once you're actually going through all the work that was maybe in the blockage within the connection with the reunion, you then go out and you're having to upgrade those frequencies. And at the same time, simultaneously, energetically, you're upgrading your twin at the same time because they're doing the work too, regardless of your ego believing masculines aren't doing the work. They directly are, just in a different way. Saturn is in root chakra and it's in its own home sign. And it's in your 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th house. Now, interestingly enough, Saturn wants you to understand that you have a spiritual connection with this person, and it can be that you're getting downloads, especially if you are having vibrations and feelings connected to something that is changing. That is true. You need to tune into it. It's a very psychic element to it, but it can also denote lower frequency things like cheating and karma. I feel intuitively, you know, something has to change in order for the balance to come about. So it's just follow that and have faith in that factor. With your 9th house, it's to do with, you know, what you've learned to date and what you're continuing to learn and what your belief systems are evolving into. 10th house, the way you perceive yourself, your work, what you're doing, and how you can move forward, and what you've got to actually bring to the table after the fact of spiritually growing. With the 11th house, it is to do with your tribe and who you're associating with. And it may be for you personally that you're choosing to actually mix away from different friendship groups because you no longer directly connect with them. Jupiter, which is where we are expanding, and it's in Sagittarius again, its own home sign, and it's in sacral chakra. So this is about our expansion, and it's interesting because aspects of Uranus as well are, except Uranus won't cope with that because it's in Taurus, and Taurus likes to keep everything the same. So with Jupiter, you have the 9th and the 12th house, so your higher consciousness is going to expand, as well as knowing that if you're recreating karma, it's going to come around. So try and keep it balanced. And if you are choosing a person at a fair base frequencies, if you're in a karmic relationship, it's going to really directly impact you, but it's almost like you've extended your road in a sense of, and it's not bad. You know, sometimes we can deem even a soulmate energy when you're a twin flame. If you've done all the purging you need to and you turned into the lighter vibration of yourself and you're having the ascension symptoms, etc., you're going to be more comfortable with being okay with either or, soulmate or twin. When you're in the lower frequencies and you need to spiritually grow, you'll find it's quite dangerous to actually entertain a soulmate energy, because part of your lessons will come through that, because you are in a lower frequency in pain body experience and you're healing, preparing for reunion, not union. Now, union comes from you. You need to get grounded in order to do that. Once you start achieving and working on any aspects of blocks you have inside yourself, you're then in vibration alignment to be open for that connection. So it's connected to, in Jupiter, for expansion, your higher education. So it might be your upskilling, it may be your belief systems, your religion, your tribe, and the long journeys that you're wishing to take in order to get where you're going. Also not putting a time on things for transfers and transformations. It's almost like when you check out of the time zone, it fast tracks it because you're not controlling it. You know, the control related dynamics we all hear about. So it can be, I am actually saying that for some of you, you will be traveling and needing to go somewhere in order to have a spiritual transformation. You have Pluto in Capricorn as well, and this is the area, sacral chakra and root chakra is going to be covering this area, but at the same time, it's where endings can come about and rebirths. So it's what needs to have a shake-up in order to change. This is in relation to your self and image and the way you see yourself, the way you express yourself, and the way you actually support yourself. So it's falling in the first house. Now, the 8th house is to do what other people can actually bring to the table. And this can be, you know, in some shape or form, it can be where we're dependent upon another person. And definitely in a twin flame journey, if we do have this coming up, it's where we need to end that frequency and, you know, what is our bounce back effect? Can we actually look after ourselves, or are we needing another individual? Because love is not a requirement, it's a vibration. 10th house is in your social image with Pluto, so there can be a change up of that. It might be that you're changing your style, or you're changing the way you see yourself. Or for some of you, it can even be changing job in order to move things forward. Now, if this is your twin and you're cross-watching, it can be there is a change coming through with a baby's mother, father's mother, because this is also connected to parents, and that can be on your side or their side. Neptune, where we have our beautiful illusions. Now, this is connected to our third eye and sacral chakra. So although we might be passionate about things and want to manifest things and intuitively sense and see things, this is in relation to maybe you blocking it, maybe you not understanding what's real and what's not, especially with the 12th house falling in this sector and the 10th house. So your perspective and perceptions of how you see yourself may not necessarily be the way other people see you. It's also connected to your job. You might be holding on to it a little bit too tight for grim death. And, you know, it might be due to childhood and your growth of your belief system in an old paradigm you're actually directly leaving behind. Again, the 12th house is connected to karma. So it might be that you're getting super paranoid about you know, everything you do, or, you know, if I don't do this right, or I'm not prepared, it's not going to be in alignment. So with a lower frequency, it can be really, you feeling that a relationship was going to last the distance, but it wasn't what it ended up being. So especially with Saturn showing you that certain things need to be looked at, because the 12th house is covered in Saturn, it's almost realizing that, in fact, no, that was built on faulty ground and it wasn't the spiritual connection. So for some of you, you might have been in a karmic relationship and you're having a realization of that. But you're also understanding where you were codependent within connections. And that can really be like the aha epiphany moments where we're looking at it and we're saying, oh, okay, you know, it's like, what were the motivations at that time? And maybe even being quite critical towards yourself, but trying to really sweep it under the carpet. And this can be if you're in the lower frequency. Not all of you are in that frequency. Feeling that perhaps, gosh, what have I done? You know, I didn't realize I was operating from that vibration. I legitimately thought this was a love connection. So Uranus and Taurus, it's with your crown chakra and your heart chakra. And what's going to be changing in this area, but it's going to feel slightly uncomfortable, is again your personal image, your potential means, the way you express yourself. In the 11th house, your tribe. Okay, so expanding beyond the point of what you thought the whole world was and having to expand out from that. So knowing that you're more than just what people see you as. Also knowing that not everything is money, which was really coming through very strongly for Aries in 2018. And the way you express yourself could have been the trigger point because you wanted to avoid the pain body experience of child of what mother-father expectation was coming through for you. Now, when it does come to the 11th house, it can be that you're really assessing your dreams. And you're looking at ideas and ways and people that are more in alignment with you and what way you need to move in order to actually get those situations moving forward. Now, when it does come to your Aries placement, it is in your own home sign and it is connected to throat chakra. So again, the houses that are coming up for this is the 1st, the 8th and the 9th. And if you do want to research it, you can look for, in depth into it. This is covering your self-image, other people's resources, higher education belief, and long-distance travel. Now, this is where you may be really working towards. It might be what you're putting a lot of energy into at that point, especially with the first partial eclipse being from the 1st moving through to the 6th, which is the solar eclipse partial. Don't get triggered if things change. Even if you're putting a lot of effort in, don't freak out, keep grounded, because whatever you're directly dealing with, it's going to get off the ground. It just may need a few tweaks. So again, with the throat chakra, caution, especially with Mercury. Caution with your communication, keep grounded. With any projects you're dealing with if you're dealing with your twin, caution, keep grounded, communicate correctly. Venus house in Sagittarius, again, is almost the Saturn energy coming through, strictness, knowing the truth of the matter. And again, it's close to the solar eclipse. It's coming through on the 7th of January. So your romance sector will be moving forward. And again, it is looking at your personal resources, your possessions. Again, you're looking at finances, Aries. Your partner, your spouse, open enemies, people perhaps you were in connections with previously. You may be directly dealing with them at a financial level, trying to tie off those karmic cycles. So it can be where you actually totally understand it was a mutual agreement, you were in the connection, it was what society thought was absolutely wonderful and great. Or it could have been a relationship where you were physically in, and it can be divorce proceedings, etc., and paperwork that's being covered. So whatever karmic ending is happening in that cycle, it's really knowing what the reality of that situation was and looking at what you want now, not the way it was, what you want from here in moving forward. So it might change quite drastically through that solar eclipse, but it's something that you'll be moving towards. You're also looking at other people's resources, legacies, death, regenerative influences. So really what people were directly bringing to the table and how you were able to reinvigorate that connection and if it's worth regenerating. So it's like really making an assessment in your romantic house in relation to how to, what to bring back to life and what to place an ending to. So it's almost like you're making a major decision. You're also looking at your 9th house, which is what your spiritual beliefs are now after the fact of situations. And again, I do correlate that with, especially with the aspect of religion and what you've learnt. I almost feel in the aspect of the twin flame journey, it's, yes, you're looking at the wounds with Chiron. You're also looking at the, what do you fight for with Venus and Mars in the 8th house. But at the same time, you're also realizing there's certain individuals that weren't meant for you and who is meant for you, which is the spiritual connection. And the reasons why you were blocked was due to your wounds. Now, Chiron in Pisces is going to be covering these areas again: karmic cycles, the interconnection spiritually to your twin, your friends, your associates, your work, your image, and your beliefs. So it's like you're doing an overhaul. So it's going to be interesting. Now, if you do want a booking, you can come through and click the link below. The booking page is the same for YILDIZ readings and Twin Flame Alchemist Union. I also do have the readings very separate. So you've got your reading for the month and you've got the aspect of the astrology. I'll try and keep them as condensed as possible. I'm going to try and get them to 15 minutes so I can actually keep up to date with everyone's, because I've got to do them at YILDIZ readings as well. Again, if you are wanting a booking, come through. Otherwise, click the bell and you will see me live with my psychic downloads. Bye.